This is Miss Heinous, the Honorable Headmistress of Szanto.
No, Meteora. That is my name. At least it was my name.
Oh dang, this is gonna be a long video. The final draft was 100 pages, and I've never had a video of 100 pages. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Star Versus, or more specifically, Miss Heinous. Wait, Kitty, I thought this was Meteora. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you about Meteora. Wait, but I thought... Okay, you know what? We're gonna get there when we get there, okay, Miss Specific? Why do you say that word wrong? Also, TY guys for watching my cleaved video. It was super fun to make, a nice trip down memory lane, and I guess that means Star Versus and Hell of a Boss are back to being in the rotation. I will still review my other cartoons, but hey, it is nice to vary from time to time and get a palate cleanser. Back when I reviewed Star Versus regularly, one topic I always wanted to get to but never could was Meteora, since she was my favorite Star Versus character after her mother, and my favorite antagonist, and I always wanted to write a video on her, but I never could, especially since I could never decide if I wanted to do one video on Heinous and another on Meteora, or just one big video, and I think it's better to do one big video. For the sake of simplicity, we'll divide Meteora's character up into several eras. The Heinous era, which will cover her from birth to Monster Mash, the Meteora era, which will cover from Monster Bash to the end of Season 3, and the Baby era, which will cover her from Conquer to the end of the show. So, let's discuss. Starting with who Meteora is and why she was born. Becoming Miss Heinous.
Did you abandon your husband, King Shastakan, and your kingdom to elope with a monster?
Yes, I did run off with a monster. But could you really blame me?
As the saying goes, Eclipsa, the Queen of Darkness, to a human king was wed, but took a monster for her love and away from Muni fled. With Eclipsa, the biggest part of her backstory, outside of tinkering with dark magic, was her selfishness.
Well, I did what I had to do for me. If the Magic High Commission and your mother think that's evil,
Call me a villainess.
And the biggest way she was selfish was by marrying a monster, despite already being married to Shastakan. According to the spellbook, it's for a reason. Eclipsa's mother was Solaria, the monster carver, who was infamous for waging a campaign against monsters, the effects of which are still felt by the characters in present day. And part of how Solaria managed to muster up such a large army was by using her brother Justin as a diplomat, sending him to the neighboring kingdoms, among them the Forest of unlikely spider bites. He married a spider bite duchess later in life, but the family did not gain anything from this. Albeit, we never learned the details, like if it was a love match, and that's why they didn't gain anything, or, you know, she's a duchess and not a princess, so maybe they don't feel obligated, or since Justin wasn't the king of Muni, that wasn't a proper alliance to them, or whatever, but hey. In order to make the spider bites allies, Solaria tried as hard as she could to get Eclipsa to marry Shastakan, who at the time was called Little Lad Shastakan, which is actually hypocritical if you read it. Solaria's chapter beforehand, and the point is made that Solaria did not want a king. In order to have a daughter, she just waited till she was ready, then she asked one of her advisors, Alphonse the Worthy, to go on a sea trip with her, and 9 months later she was born. Aw, so like me, Eclipsa's a bastard. But no matter how much she tried, Eclipsa could not bring herself to love Shastakan, since she was already with Globcore, a childhood friend turned romance, and she thought Shastakan was boring. And looking at him, oh god, he seems like he smells like a combo of glue sticks and Miracle Whip. And this was 300 years ago, so there's probably no deodorant. Oh, and he has spider bites, so poor girl. Eclipsa and Shastakan were to wed for 2 reasons. 1, because Eclipsa would gain the spider bites as allies, and 2, Shastakan was his second-born son, meaning he would inherit nothing. If he were to marry Eclipsa, he'd at least gain a title. However, I will say, honestly, there was no reason to continue to keep Shastakan around. Queens of Muni rule in their own right. I mean, I already told you about how Solaria just had a fling with one of her advisors and everybody accepted Eclipsa, and if they want a divorce, they can get one. So why stay married to him? The spider bites were loyal to her mother's ideals, not to hers, monsters. She could have taken a Mumin king who felt her ideals but wasn't Globgor. But Eclipsa became queen when she was young. Remember, not much older than Moon, and Moon inherited the throne at 17, so that could have been like any point beforehand. Eclipsa was also known as a wild child, so I could see the court trying to control her via marriage. Like, oh, she's grieving so hard, Eclipsa, you better get in line. Plus, her mother had a massive agenda, which Eclipsa was not on board with, and I think trying to get Eclipsa to marry was her way of trying to continue her anti-monster lineage. Since marriage implies you're eventually gonna make babies, and if she had grandkids, her beliefs would live on. Maybe she just didn't want to admit that Eclipsa didn't like a boy she tried to set her up with, so she tried as hard as she could to double down, or think in her mind like, oh, I know what's best for you, so you have to listen, just as she was with the monsters, like, the monsters are happier if they're dead. Maybe Solaria came to regret this viewpoint considering Cleaved, since she had to work hard to find allies. Heck, we know that the Magic High Commission falsified documents, so who's to say that Solaria even wanted this marriage? Or maybe, like, right before her death she came to regret it. Or maybe Solaria's will didn't say she had to marry Shastacan, it just said something along the lines of, oh Eclipsa, I wish you would marry Shastacan. And Eclipsa felt like that was her mother's dying wish, so she had to. Whatever it was, they married, but Eclipsa and Shastacan did, at first, what Stolas and Stella should have done. Their job by marrying, and then living separate lives without doing the nasty, while Eclipsa continued to seek Globgor in secret. Thankfully, unlike Stolas, Eclipsa was not obligated to sire a precautionary heir, thank goodness. However, some time had passed, and Shastacan admitted he had grown to love Eclipsa despite their arrangement, and he wanted to make babies with her. Ew, gross, ew. Eclipsa tried to tell Shastacan that she did not love him. She was in love with Globgor, but he laughed in her face, and it was eventually the nail in the coffin for her to go with Globgor. Now, obviously, Eclipsa could have just divorced Shastacan, but maybe she didn't want to piss off the spider bites by doing so, or part of her did care about Shastacan even if she didn't love him. And heck, maybe nobody would have respected her love with Globgor anyways. She just felt alone. So she left the spellbook and her wand behind and ran away to be with Globgor. And she left a note written in Low Mumin which said, "Tonight I make my escape. To the future queens who inherit this book, I hope that time will show my decisions were just and right. I don't know what the future holds for this kingdom, but it's clear the mounting tensions between the monsters and the Mumins are at their peak. I know it seems like I am thinking only of myself in this decision, but maybe it benefits the kingdom too." Shastacan found her chapter and ordered the Magic High Commission to capture her in Globgor. And what did they find at the monster temple where they were hiding? Meteora, Eclipsa and Globgor's daughter, who was half monster, half Mumin, but the rightful heir to the throne all the same.
Eclipsa is hundreds of years old. Besides, that would mean Heinous is a princess.
It means she's a butterfly. It means she's a monster!
Wait, how could that be? I mean, didn't Eclipsa leave to marry a monster? So basically she abdicated. Therefore, her bloodline no longer has any rule. True, I'm surprised the show never brought up this technicality. In a way, Muni might not even be Meteora's when you really start to think about it. But since it takes 9 months to be pregnant, and they never say, like, if humans are different, so I assume that's the case. Unlike the imps where, yeah, you can at least, I don't know, imprint whatever you want, because they never say it. This gives me questions about how long she was gone for, and if maybe she was pregnant before she ran away. A fight ensued, and Meteora was captured. When discovered, Shastacan wanted nothing to do with the infant, since she was both part monster and living proof of his wife's infidelity. So he ordered the Magic High Commission to strike Meteora from the record books and swapped her out with a peasant girl, Festivia, an orphan of the Pie folk who was left behind.
Festivia? No. Are you sure? My daughter was Meteora.
Well, the name may have been changed.
But that's not her.
You know, I kind of like the hint that Festivia wasn't a butterfly origin considering her name, since we all know the butterflies like to name themselves after space stuff, like Solar, Solaria, Eclipsa, Eclipse, and you get frickin' Festivia. Festivia was given the royal magic wand and crowned Queen of Muni, passed off as Eclipse's daughter and raised by the Magic High Commission, and told that her parents were eaten by monsters, which is kind of true in a way, since Shastacan was indeed eaten by Globgor despite being a a major retcon I feel makes no sense timeline-wise.
And that dance you showed us is a tribute to Globgor eating my great-great-grand-uncle Shastakan.
Think you left out a few greats?
But what happened to Meteora? Well, Shastakan did go through the trouble of finding her a new mother in the form of St. Olga, a robot and the head of St. Olga's reform school for wayward princesses, and Meteora was renamed Heinous.
This baby is unfit to inherit the kingdom. She's absolutely heinous.
Heinous. What a pretty name.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree with her. Sorry, I'm the type of person who thinks miasma sounds adorable. Like, one of my teachers was like, Appa, you cannot name your kid miasma. Oh, but it sounds cute. Albeit, I'm not defending Shastakan. He's a terrible person, but I do think it's kind of cool how he at least went through the trouble of finding Meteora a caregiver, like a high-class caregiver, when really, he didn't have to do anything. He could have just, dropped her off on the street, or had her killed, or abandoned her in another dimension, or given her to monsters, especially considering the Septarians. Yes, he's a racist, and he's probably just doing all of this out of spite. It's just worth noting. So now Meteora is heinous, and literally so. At least she was presumably raised high class, considering how St. Olga is called the Lady St. Olga. Well, it's complicated. Well, not complicated. St. Olga was abusive beyond belief. At least Festivia knew the Magic High Commission loved her unconditionally, and she loved them in turn, despite the deception. St. Olga taught, i.e. forced, Heinous to cover up all of her monster traits, since they were considered flaws, like hiding her tail because tails aren't ladylike.
Mother, why do I have to hide my tail?
You know that old rhyme, dear. Boys do not make passes at girls with devil tails.
Just to point out, I like the detail that she gives her an unflattering dress, like one that wouldn't work for somebody in her condition. Normally for shows like this, they either have a hole in the dress for the tail, or they wear pants and a skirt so they can put the tail over it. But no, and honestly, it looks really uncomfortable. For reference, she didn't start doing this when she was a teen. She started as early as childhood.
Do you know what would make you even prettier? Suppressing your flaws.
Mommy, wait! I can fix it!
Oh my god, whenever I see this scene, my heart breaks. Obviously, it hurts her and St. Olga won't stop. She has to beg her, Mommy, stop. And we know that to the butterflies, their cheeks glow, under totally normal circumstances, when they're happy. Plus, look at how happy she was when she showed her something supernatural, and her mom's response was, stop doing that. I'd even had the magic do it. She had to repress her magic side as a flaw, even if that was her birthright. But honestly, St. Olga didn't need to do any of this. Shastakan just said she couldn't inherit the kingdom. Also, I want to zero in on one part. When Meteora first sees her cheeks glowing, she's near a puddle, which has a sponge, and she's on her knees, which has to make you wonder if she was also forced to do chores on top of that, i.e. Cinderella-esque stuff. And since she's so little, and there's only a sponge, for that whole floor, and as a lot of other reviewers have pointed out, especially Slice of Otaku, oh my god, I hope he's doing okay, that's like being forced to scrub the toilet with your toothbrush. Or did she knock over a bucket and that set off the cheek marks? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, mommy, look at the puddle. I really hope it's the last ones. Now, if you watched my earlier Star Vs videos, you know one reason I found kinship with the show was because I'm mixed race. And the show did help me come to terms with that, it's weird to say. Especially when I started watching it in high school and I was just starting to notice the differences. Like Tom's comment about still being a monster or getting nasty looks, and the fact he still has to hide parts of himself.
Am very rich, but when I get on an elevator with a stranger, I'm a monster, just like all of you.
Even if the minority swear he isn't one of them, well, he still is in a way. I think one reason Meteora was my favorite character wasn't just because of design reasons, but because she's a mixed-race woman forced to conform to the mainstream idea when you really get down to it. Heck, Heinous internalized the abuse so much that she treats the painful brainwashing as a refresher, the same way you would treat rereading a chapter in your favorite book. I love the line when she confronts St. Olga as a grown-up with her tail.
Oh no, you changed your look.
It's called a tail. and I think I look great with it.
Yeah, I've done stuff like that before. When Heinous got older, she eventually took over operations at St. Olga's as headmistress and ran it with an iron fist and grand security. She instituted a 3-strike policy where any girl caught showing an emotion would be sent to the solitary confinement chamber, which I know we'll never figure out, but I do want to know how Heinous eventually came to her position, especially since when we see St. Olga in the present day, she's turned off in the basement, she's unplugged, and she's covered in cobwebs, like she hasn't been touched in ages. Did Heinous think she could run the school better? Did she get into a fight with St. Olga? There's no problems with St. Olga in terms of software or the like, considering how easily Heinous was able to reboot her. This is something I would love to see. But yes, Heinous became headmistress and 300 years or so passed. How did she stay alive and looking fine? By stealing stuff from her charges, which, no offense to other Star vs. reviewers or wikis, especially Awestruck Fox, but she wasn't stealing the emotions of those girls or their youth. She was stealing their life force. Even Eclipsa spells it out.
I was a great headmistress.
But you were stealing the life force of those girls to preserve your youth.
Oh, you noticed.
Sorry, pet peeve of mine, just because they literally say it in the show, and not figuratively, and people still insist, like, oh no, she really wasn't. That's why it was bad she was gonna steal from Marco, because she was basically gonna kill him, and why she stole from Smooshy. And likely why we didn't see Smooshy after it happened, since Star Vs. is still a kid's show, and they can't show a kid dying off screen. But under Heinous, St. Olga's Reform School for Wayward Princesses became a major cautionary tale to all. Either conform, or we're gonna force you to. Which happened as far back as the pilot. When Star first gets her wand, she destroys Muni, so River and Moon send her to Earth so she can learn to control her powers there. Better to wreck someplace that isn't home for a change, but they make it clear that if she screws up again, they will send her to St. Olga's.
Don't send me to St. Olga's Reform School for Wayward Princesses!
Sweetheart, we're not sending you there.
Oh! Yet.
Remember when we all thought that Moon got sent there and that's why she was so stuffy? We were young and naive. St. Olga's is also a constant presence prior to its appearance in Season 1. Star and Marco meet several princesses who are sent to St. Olga's or in danger of getting sent there. For instance, Ponyhead comes to visit Star and party with a pony, only for it to turn out that her father wanted to send her to St. Olga's because of her partying, hence her being on the run.
I'm headed to the slammer.
It's Reform School, Cupcake, not jail. Although, admittedly, it is a lot like jail.
And considering how she threatened Marco and all that jazz, yeah. Oh no, don't worry, this is a theme. Like how Smooshy wants to escape St. Olga's, and her plan is to switch faces with Star, with the implication she isn't doing this out of desperation. And when Star refuses, she's like, screw it, you're going to St. O's.
I'm on the run from St. O's.
Well, you can't stay here. I don't want to go to St. O's.
Oh, you're going to St. O's.
Yep, totally not St. Olga's material. Guess I have 2 nickels. Now, I'd argue if Star had to go to St. Olga's, it would be a little bit better in her case. Moon wanted Star's behavior dealt with along with her tendency to destroy things using her magic. So I feel like Star would probably have to do magic lessons, but proper ones, or the wand would be taken away from her, except when it was time to do lessons. But for somebody like Star who learns via doing games, it would absolutely suck. Especially since they probably tell her, and if she kept doing it wrong, she would probably be punished. Especially when St. Olga's is all about conformity. Oh, you made a Warnicorn stampede? Ugh, Star, you were supposed to make a flower. No food for you, go eat air. But yes, Star is eventually forced to go to St. Olga's in the titular episode. Ponyhead is celebrating her birthday, but Star can't be with her because, you know, she's at reform school. They talk, but Ponyhead is forced to act proper since the call is being monitored.
A princess such as myself could never indulge in such confections. But would you please donate them to the starving bartenders of Galafamore on my behalf?
They won't let you eat cupcakes? What is wrong with them? Can't you just use a fork and a knife? However, Ponyhead makes one wrong move and is sent to the solitary confinement chamber, which totally sounds fun and sweet, and it's gonna suck, isn't it?
I expressed my individuality and publicly showed an emotion. And that's my 3rd strike. Oh no, no, please, no, no, they're sending
sending me to the solitary confinement chamber!
Star doesn't think Ponyhead should be locked up on her birthday and teams up with Marco to get her out, at least for the night, which means infiltrating St. Olga's in costumes I kinda wanna steal. And since this will be important later, this is the first episode to establish what I'm gonna call Marco's drag persona, Princess Marco. I hate the other name, but she rocks. And I only say, like, she's his drag persona because of how it gets treated, especially in Princess Turdina. Star's outfit rocks too, like if Star Versus was still super big, I'd highly consider cosplaying as her. Maybe for like a Halloween Disney event. I could probably get away with that, right? But infiltrating St. Olga's means they must pretend to be princesses, and they must meet with Miss Heinous, who is a level of fingernail polish emoji I wish I could obtain.
Too wild. Too opinionated. Too bubbly.
Which makes me wonder, is she subconsciously angry that Star is getting everything that should be hers and now she gets to get revenge on this kid? Like, I can inflict whatever punishment I want and I just have to lie and say it's to help her behavior. Or considering the implications Star almost got sent there, did she know Star's story because maybe Moon and River tried contacting her? Like, oh yeah, I've heard about you, girl. Good thing Moon finally sent you.
You'll all be fixed. Every last one of you, whether you're from Pixtopia or Muty. And don't even think about escape.
Also, I'm curious about the cheek marks turning to ice, especially considering the reveals. Is it a sign she had magic without realizing it, or is it just a psychosomatic thing from Star?
That concludes your orientation. I'm confident that you will all become perfect princesses, one way or another.
Wow, I kinda wanna go to this school now. Come on, orientation with no icebreakers, that is heaven. Tell us something about yourself that we wouldn't know by looking at you. Oh, I have imposter syndrome. Oh, I'm very anxious. Oh, drinking destroyed my marriage. Oh, drinking destroyed my family. Wow, how original. I totally want to get to know these people who I probably won't see after this orientation concludes. However, it does tell Star and Marco something important.
We have a Tramophidian crystal in Tower 3. No rift can sustain itself.
Once we get Ponyhead and disable that crystal thing, those are our ticket out of here.
Just for future reference. Star and Marco venture deep into St. Olga's, and I gotta say, this school is doing a terrible job at showing me that it's evil. Who cares about the architecture? I'm into that stuff. I'm like a grungy, creepy goth chick in real life. Why do you think they call me Kitty Monk? Why do they call you Kitty Trunk? You have to go to my panels to find out. Like Marco says, many of these girls are actually basket cases who need some guidance, and their eventual jobs will require them to act mature in some cases, or to put their troublemaker behavior on the back burner for the greater good.
This place has some seriously luxurious digs. Look at the intricate floral ornamentation, and there's enough velvet on that bedspread for me to swim in.
And come on, the rooms are so pretty. When I started college, I had to share a room with like 3 other girls and shower in my flip-flops and walk through the creepy cemetery full of dead nuns because my first year I went to a Catholic school, thank God I transferred. And these girls get freaking fireplaces. Fireplaces! Yes, Marco, yes, this place is awesome and it won't make me go crazy from depression and cut my hair like I did freshman year. I would rather take this. What could possibly go wrong?
No. You're not leaving until you get this right.
Oh no, they turned Jody Benson into a dictator. Okay, this place might actually be evil. My opinion hasn't changed totally yet. But wow, Jody Benson teacher kind of reminds me of my advisor. They eventually get to Ponyhead, and I bet, holy crap, what is that thing? That unholy freak of hellish nature. Is that my sleep paralysis demon? Does she keep Felix and the broken neck lady company? Because they need no more of that. Oh, and they turned her into a racist.
Hey, pointy head, it's Earth Turd!
Such language belongs in the gutters of Galaphamore.
Is that what they're calling Nork now? Oh, is it not gentrified enough for you? Well, we can't all afford to shop at Whole Foods and help the hungry kids. But yes, St. Olga's is evil, and I like how the show points out why it's evil despite its mission. The girls obviously need guidance, both as girls and as future leaders, but treating rehabilitation like prison isn't rehabilitation, it's punishment, when it should be helping. And removing their free will isn't the way to do it. If you want to help a quote-unquote problem teen, you need to get to the the heart of why they feel the need to do problematic things, mostly by getting them therapy. And most of those problems start on the home front. Do they feel like they're trapped? Are their parents doing something? Or maybe you can channel that emotion and angst into something else. Like when Miss Heinous eventually leaves the school, we do see that the princesses, especially Princess Arms, one of her charges, are pretty responsible. Princess Arms has good leadership skills.
And more bacon. You're gonna have to take the exam.
What? I gotta take a waffle test? That's crazy. I'm not doing that, okay?
Which the school did not nurture. Instead, they forced her to do typical princess things that she wasn't suited for, like sipping tea.
Keep your pinkies at 90 degrees. More tea, please. Keep your pinkies at 90 degrees. More tea, please.
Why do shows keep pushing this? When in doubt, pinky out is actually considered super improper. Same with lifting up your skirt when you curtsy. You're supposed to put your arms at your side, straighten your back, and bend. Sorry, pet peeve of mine, like when shows say corsets or torture devices when that's like saying a bra is misogynistic. Star and Marco and Rarity here are cornered, and Marco decides the only way to get the heat off of them is by causing a distraction, which leads to Princess Marco's trademark phrase.
It's not criminal to be an individual.
It's not criminal to be an individual. It's not criminal to be an individual.
And it seems like the phrase has worked as Rarity's brainwashing begins to slightly wear off, ever so slightly.
He got scolded.
She's laughing at an authority figure. I think the real Ponyhead's still in there.
You know, guys, be lucky that Ponyhead is a minor because I was totally gonna make that jar joke if she wasn't. Word gets back to Miss Heinous that an uprising is going on. She initiates a lockdown because this episode is as much as a homage to making fun of Disney princess stereotypes that need to go die on a hill as it is to escape movies.
We will quell this uprising in its infancy. Quell. Is that right?
Me whenever I write a script. But she is mostly successful, putting the princesses in their rooms and deciding to put the instigators into the solitary conformant chamber in order to make an example out of them. But her diction choices, I guess, apparently need work.
I'm glad we stifled the uprising. You know, stifle isn't working for me either.
I think quell was fine. Or kill or destroy would also be appropriate. Heinous leads the hunt for Marco and Star with a pack of hounds. Holy crap, dude, they're kids. Why else do you think I was watching my word choices? I have respect sometimes. Star and Ponyhead are able to escape, but Marco is captured and brainwashed, and we see it firsthand. But first...
You gotta help me save him. I can't do this alone.
A princess who misbehaves will be saved. In the solitary confinement chamber.
I think Ponyhead was still trying to break through, and this was her subconsciously telling Star where Marco went. Like, girl, go to the solitary confinement chamber. That's where we're gonna save Marco. In the chamber, Marco is getting an employee reevaluation.
'Tis better to be fussy than to be called a hussy.
Wow, I can't believe they got away with that word in a Disney cartoon. Oh, but they'll hold off on airing episodes featuring trans characters. Cowards. Clearly nobody gave Pleakley that alert. Star is able to break through to Ponyhead via destroying a poster, and they go to rescue Marco. And since the brainwashing wasn't complete, Marco is saved and his sanity is back. And we are given crumbs worth of foreshadowing.
Go away!
Your cheeks!
No, stop it! You saw nothing!
So, why did Miss Heinous' cheek marks show? Well, I have two ideas. Either it was because of strong emotion, like what happened with the puddle, or it was because she saw a literal butterfly. Like, I don't think it was because she was scared of the butterfly or anything like that. I think it was her memory starting to resurface. Because, honestly, she did show strong emotion previously in the episode, and her cheek marks weren't appearing then. Or maybe it was just a super stressful day, and that was the cherry on the cake. But whatever the reason, Miss Heinous treats herself to a nice, relaxing brain massage.
If your elbows are on the table, you belong in a stable. There. All better.
Also, like most authority figures, Miss Heinous is a major hypocrite. She hates that the girls are using magic, and yet she's using magic. She finds a bobby pin Marco left behind and discovers it was from Earth, swearing revenge. And that's all we get from Miss Heinous in Season 1, since the purpose of most Season 1s is to just explore other worlds and set up future plot points. But don't worry, Miss Heinous becomes a greater foe in Season 2. Kind of. Albeit she kind of becomes like one of those laughable bad guys, which for a show like this, honestly, I don't totally mind, so I won't complain about it. She's still menacing, and it oddly doesn't feel out of character or something you would need to overanalyze explain like the diamonds from SU, but I feel like she appears so little, an extra episode with her would be a bit better, but we'll get there when we get there. In Goblin Dogs, pony-headed forms star that Miss Heinous has left St. Olga's.
With Miss Heinous gone, St. Olga's is like a total party school now.
Well, considering her titular episode, left is not the right word for it. She was forced out, and kind of rightfully so, by the girls she abused, who get revenge by turning St. Olga's into a literal party school.
My students lost all respect. Soon, they were cutting classes just to party, even inviting the boys from the neighboring Prince Reform School. They threw me out!
Which, while I see Heinous's side of things, well, I get why they didn't just go home. Their parents sent them to a place where they were being abused on a daily basis, and they did nothing to help them. Why else would you go back to that place? And like I said, a lot of troubled teens, although not all of them, often become troubled teens because of issues at home. Maybe they feel like they're no longer safe there. And no offense, St. Olga's doesn't really hide the fact that they don't correct general teenage tomfoolery. Their commercials literally spell out that they mean to strip away your personality of being and turn you into a hardened shell.
That free-thinking 1 in a million brat will become a 1 of a million emotionless rubber stamp that your bloodline can count on.
Albeit, yeah, I do wish we got to see this. I do like Season 3 Beyond went out of its way to have full-on episodes where Star barely appears, if at all, and isn't the focus. It does help to show the world outside of Muni and other viewpoints. The princesses rising up to kick Miss Heinous out of the school and having to actually support themselves, and this being what turns them into good leaders, I would have loved to have seen that episode, especially since I don't think Star and Marco really needed to be present. But don't worry, we'll eventually get to Schooled. Likely because Miss Heinous is universally unpopular, she ends up with nothing. Nothing. She lives in a rundown apartment with only her remaining bodyguard, Gemini, for company.
Oh, Miss Heinous, I cannot wait to recapture our former glory. It has been a long time since I last ate.
And I will say, I think Gemini is awesome, and his ending will be quite bittersweet. He's like Sean from the Magic High Commission, but better, and actually likable. He loves to serve, he's gleeful, and I just realized his name is a pun on the fact he only has one eye.
How is my hair?
Like you just came from the salon.
Filthy lies, but I'll allow it.
Ms. Heinous decides to get revenge on Star and Marco by hiring another important person to her cause. Rastakor Chaosis Disaster Vane. Wow, cool name, and I kind of like the irony. Rastakor is a Septarian, meaning he's from the same species as monster as Toffee, as in he regenerates unless you use Eclipse's spell on him. Therefore, he's effectively immortal. But as we know from the Book of Spells, Septarians were the monster versions of extremists who wanted all humans killed rather than peace. Whereas Eclipse and Glavgor, yeah, they wanted peace. To the point where Eclipse made up the darkest spell to try and repel them. As we know from flashbacks, Rastakor was part of Toffee's army, and his inner circle, meaning he had the same goals. I'm sorry, I just don't know any other word for it beyond ironic. Like, Eclipse ran away to help deal with the Septarians, and now one of them is working for her daughter. Ms. Heinous makes it clear that she wants Star killed and Marco brought to her, but while at quest by, Rastakor is reduced to nothing but an arm.
Rastakor! I'll get you, Princess Marco.
I'm sorry, what's the other thing you don't like?
His mission deemed a failure, Miss Heinous takes it upon herself to get revenge personally. How, you may ask? By going to Earth and having a stern talking to with Marco's parents. Because come on, she's still a headmistress, I guess in a way. She's also an educator, and we will appear on your doorstep because we're scary like that. Ooh, yeah, looks like we got to her titular episode. And honestly, many fans actually hate this episode since they all thought it was gonna be Miss Heinous' backstory, not a regular episode that just happens to feature her. Oh, you sweet summer children. Me personally, while it is nothing special, I do find it a bit hilarious. Especially with how Miss Heinous starts losing her sanity and going violent on Marco by trying to bring her revenge fantasies to life. Plus, it is clearly setting up for major events down the line, like how Miss Heinous starts to treat Rastakor's arm like her child. Like Bobo! Or how she's sinking so low and because she isn't running St. Olga's, she can't just brainwash herself anymore. anymore, and is forced to cover her cheek marks with face powder, which is clearly foreshadowing something, guys. I mean, come on! However, like I said above, part of me thinks this could have easily had been a Muni episode, just as much as an Earth episode, or at least had a counterpart. Or been like, oh, I tried Star's parents, but she didn't listen, so now I gotta go to Marco's. Since she does dislike Star as much as Marco, but strangely, Star is always off her radius. One of the companion books even mentioned that Heinous was a wanted criminal, which now we know why she is, so maybe she could have tried to have had a chat with Moon about Star, and Star explained she was helping Ponyhead. Miss Heinous freaks out or whatever, and that causes her to become a convict. But no, especially with how she thought her apology with Marco was successful and all, maybe she tried to replicate that with Star and realized nobody bought it. But considering the eventual reveal, yeah, I get why they didn't do it, but hey, it would make for a good fanfiction.
Come now, Rusticor. There's my baby bounty hunter. You're growing back so fast. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Me with Fizzy. It's not my fault he helps me stim. Plus, it's a cosplayer thing. You adopt children that can't talk back to you or reject you. Miss Heinous would be an awesome cosplayer. I mean, she already has face paint. Albeit, I do have one major problem with this episode. Marco's parents. Okay, I haven't said it yet, but I do love Marco's parents, except for this one episode. Like, their whole motivation is to have dinner with the Morrisons, this super trendy couple, and because of that, they just completely ignore whatever Marco says. Like, Miss Heinous can't be trusted because she attacked me.
Okay, that seems a little extreme.
Honey, we really don't have time for this. The Morrisons are going to be here soon, and we haven't even picked out the placemats.
Yeah, great parents. When honestly, it would just be simpler for them to ignore Miss Heinous or let Star handle it. I mean, you could still go have dinner, guys. I don't know. I hate when shows do this. Like, you know what I'm with stupid with SpongeBob? Like, to force a torture plot, they'll just have everybody ignore the one person who was truly wrong, like they're mute or something. It's frustrating. Like, maybe this is why Marco dropped out of school and moved to Muni. King of the Hill is really guilty of this, especially in the later seasons. Miss Heinous reveals that her main problem with Marco is that he encouraged the princesses to rebel. He's becoming a figurehead symbol of their rebellion.
They made her the face of a revolution, even inspiring merchandise influencing the next generation of young princesses with her devious ways.
Oh, that's why she wanted Marco and not Star.
And now I live in a car. Don't touch me. And it's all thanks to Princess Marco and her little sidekick.
Actually, you live in a car because of those girls. And no offense because you're bad with money, because you're used to the finer luxuries. Even Gift of the Card pointed this out. She picked her hair before she picked food or rent.
Finally, some little food for my mouth.
It's not for food, you fool. It's for my hair. Ms. Vero's number 112, golden brown.
Yeah, Miss Heinous would 100% be a cosplayer. Ooh, I wonder something. Is she neurodivergent or disabled, or both? And or some level of queer? And or greets people with hugs because typically you only see those cosplayers a few times a year, and or grew up poorly? Or was bullied for having interests? Because this is quite important to our subculture.
So how shall we proceed, Miss Heinous?
How about we annihilate her and display her skeleton as a warning against any further insurrection?
Yeah, this is what I mean by frustrating. Like, we know why Miss Heinous is saying all of this, self-serving memory, but despite knowing their son and knowing Marco probably wouldn't do any of this, Marco's parents don't really care to hear out his side. They just want to get this over with, which I do too, but tell Heinous that you're not gonna let her steal Marco's skeleton, which they don't do. And not because they, like, fear her or anything. She can't do anything to them. Like, Rastigor's a frickin' arm. What is he gonna do? Like, what is Gemini gonna do? Like, is he gonna, like, put up his dukes? I'm sorry. Like, they just do nothing. They just, like, have this discussion. Oh, and at one point, they even call the cops, and the cops don't do anything. And not in an, what am I supposed to do about it kind of way. They're just like, don't care.
What? That's it? You're gonna ignore all the evil going on? Evil? Evil? Evil!
Oh, that doesn't look dangerous.
Which just feels like frustrating more. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Adam McArthur and his delivery, but just the delivery. Okay, you know what? I take it back. Heinous herself is hilarious, but everything else about this episode, yeah, can go suck an egg. Everybody who isn't her or her team can go suck an egg. Like, even Miss Heinous says it.
Maybe this will inspire you to take a more active role in your child's life.
See? I should not be siding with this lady. I think that's why I wish this was an episode with Moon and Heinous, because Moon would not put up with any of this BS. And besides, I think it was a major missed opportunity that Moon and Heinous never interact prior to Monster Bash. Like, yeah, Moon and Meteora interacted, but not when Miss Heinous was brainwashing girls and being all prim and proper. Imagine the passive aggression. Miss Heinous starts to bargain for a punishment for Marco.
I leave if you let me rip out Princess Marco's spine and wear it as a fancy scarf.
Miss Heinous and Hall Monitor Helen are all the things us educators wish we could say or do to kids. Like usual, I won't repeat myself, but yeah, I think Marco's dad has a pretty good punishment in mind.
Or you let me grind her bones into a pulp?
We won't let Marco play video games.
Do you even know how bargaining works?
No pizza on Fridays.
Wait, so like, no school pizza? Is that even a punishment? School pizza on Fridays suck. It's like glorified Elios. But Marco settles on an apology, which is just him sarcastically saying sorry.
That I'm like, super sorry that I told you guys to resist your oppressors and stuff. As princesses, we should never think for ourselves.
But it satisfies Miss Heinous, even if I do wish we saw her reaction. Like, the princesses see the tape and they don't care, or they just write it off as like a prank or something, and Miss Heinous' mind shatters, and this makes her go crazier, especially considering the theme with these episodes. Thankfully, Miss Heinous appears again in Princess Turdina, and finally, she gets to interact with the girls from St. Olga's. Margot appears in his drag persona for a party to celebrate them overthrowing Heinous, who promptly crashes the party in her weirdo car. Miss Heinous says that she saw the tape that Marco made and discovered his secret, which wasn't really a secret because they were using male pronouns around her, but Miss Heinous reveals the truth. The G-rated truth!
Turdina isn't a princess! She's a boy!
How'd you know about Rodrigo?
Big whoop. I kinda have a mustache, especially when my cycle is ending or you look really up close. Plus, I have a single chin hair because thank you, genetics. Just saying, that doesn't really prove anything, you transphobic jerk. Plus, honestly, some AFABs do have chest hairs or darker hairs because of hormones or the like. I mean, it's not like Gaston, but yes, they do have slightly dark hair. I mean, I know I don't, but it happens.
That doesn't prove anything! Princesses can be hairy!
Yeah! See? Also, Heinous, these girls are all from the multiverse, so it's a little offensive to say that. But Marco does indeed confirm he's an AMAB, which, no offense, isn't as catchy as AFAB, but what are you gonna do? I'm absolutely fabulous. And the girls themselves don't care. He lied for a good cause, and he didn't totally profit off of it, except for the $650 royalty check.
Nothing he said was wrong.
Yeah! He can think for himself and so can we! He can be a princess if he wants to!
Plus, the movement of Princess Marco is bigger than him now, so it's kind of out of his hands.
You need me! And I need you.
Wait, what did you just say?
She said, and I need you, Star. Which, given the reveal with the machine, I know why she said that, but considering how she lost everything, you know, like her wealth, her status, her sanity, all because she's not at St. Olga's anymore, I feel like this is a two-way statement. But Marco does decide to retire Princess Marco permanently.
You look like you can breathe a lot easier now.
Mostly because I'm out of that dress. That corset was killing me.
Oh my god, like I said above, I hate when shows do this. I hate it. Sweetie, if your corset is hurting you, that's because it's too small for you. Plus, you probably should be wearing stays instead. Sorry, cosplayer here, history nerd here, and feminist here. This myth needs to die. You're not being feminist by making up stories. The girls rebel against Miss Heinous once again, and she's once again forced off the property. But before she leaves, she takes a princess as takeout.
Gemini, we gotta get more of this stuff.
Oh, yes, but I'm afraid this one is out of juice, m'lady.
Camera phone.
Okay, I already gave my 2 cents at the beginning, so I won't go into too much depth, but yeah, Miss Heinous' new goal is to use the machine I assume she took from St. Olga's to suck the life force out of Princess Marco, getting her revenge and making her look young and fab. Oh, that's why she wanted to go to the salon and gift her the card.
We say this all the time. Maybe we should just stay in tonight and you can have a little Gemini fuel?
Gemini, considering the reveal you're like a robot or something, I don't think she could use your fuel, no offense, but I do appreciate you being on board. Alright, so we're almost done with the heinous era. Almost time for the Meteora era, which will cover the events of Monster Bash to Conquer. Ooh! Just for a word of warning, I will be using heinous and Meteora interchangeably. Think like rose quartz and pink diamond. I just don't want you guys to get confused. Okay, so far, Miss Heinous has a theme of violence and revenge. However, Heinous herself was often held back by using her tunnel vision and her black and white way of thinking. Like, if you wrong me, then I hate you forever. Problems that will multiply as Meteora. Heinous only got as far as she did because she had people around to help her, like Rastakor or Gemini, and even then she still doubted their advice or flat out ignored it if it didn't suit her. For instance, I think if she explained the situation to Moon rather than to the Diazes, she probably would have gotten farther in her revenge, especially since she could say that Star infiltrated her school. Something noticeable about Heinous is she really has no powers of her own. We did see her using a potion to learn about Princess Marco, but likely because she lost access to that at St. Olga, she never really does it again. So what if she had natural magic like Star or her mother? And what are those cheek marks? Well, it's time for the era of Meteora Butterfly. That is an awesome name. This lady has awesome names. Several episodes prior to Monster Bash, Star starts to help the monster-human relations. She put Buffrog in the role of human-monster expert rather than Jelly Goodwell, who treated the monster the same way we treat a pack of prairie dogs, and she got the heirs of the kingdom to sign a peace treaty. To celebrate, Star throws a party, which Miss Heinous decides to crash. But first, foreshadowing.
Milady, your cheek marks are glowing.
Put in the mixtape.
As you wish.
Do you know what would be even prettier, Gemini? Skipping around! Sorry, I am terrified of playing the music, especially since Disney made this cartoon. But I will say, it's cool that Miss Heinous loves fresh rock. I wonder if she likes me, she enjoys old school Metallica. And I wonder if this was a hidden interest she always had, like even when she was in charge at St. Olga's, but she had to hide it to be ladylike, or if she just developed it like in a screwed up kind of way, getting revenge on Marco helped bring out her true self or helped her enjoy herself more. Later, Miss Heinous captures Marco and Star and readies the machine. But first, music!
Now to set the mood, play the music.
Again, milady?
Play it!
Yes, ma'am. Heard it 15 times.
Miss Heinous, do you ever have the urge to walk around in a circle for an hour and listen to music, but not like a whole album, more like a single song or one specific lyric, since you hear something weird in it or it just feels good to do? Because if so, you might just be a cosplayer. Look, no offense, Tomato Sauce, if you're watching this, why aren't you making Star Versus abridged? You're making Owl House abridged and it's really good, not gonna lie. I would love to see what you would do with Star Versus. This would be perfect. Miss Heinous is about to start the machine when her cheek marks glow again and she learns why. This is technically her property and she has dolls.
Dolls?
Oh, I can see that.
These were my dolls. I love my dolls.
As it turns out, she's not really Miss Heinous. Her birth name was Meteora, Eclipse's long-lost daughter, part monster and part human, and part butterfly. And her memories start flooding back, like you kind of feel bad for this chick. It's like the dam burst open.
It's all coming back to me. That was my bookshelf, and my toy chest. And this was my baby bed.
Wait, but weren't you abducted as an infant? How do you remember most of this stuff? Yeah, that's the only thing I don't particularly get. Like, it would make sense if she was abducted when she was like 5, but from what I can tell, she was abducted when she was less than a year old. However, we get to probably the best part about Meteora, or rather a theme with her. Her gradual transformation into a monster, both literally and figuratively. Remember how Heinous went from a prim and proper lady to... Well, in a way, she goes from being evil on the inside to being evil on the outside, and you kind of have to feel bad for her again. Like, that's the best way to describe this character. You just feel bad for her. And just to get this out of the way, I think Meteora is probably the best antagonist from Star Versus just from presentation alone. She's set up well, she has a great resolution, a great motivation that relates to the racism subplot, and she has a super sympathetic reason for doing what she does. You know how Darren Nefsey said that Toffee's kinda like Magneto Magneto, where he makes a good point but has a terrible way of going about it, well, I feel like this could also apply to Meteora, even if the show makes the point that she won't listen, and therefore, that's why she's a villain and has to be stopped. Part of me wishes Meteora was the final big bad, like her and Star make a new form of magic to replace the old one. But let's get back to Monster Bash. Meteora's memories come flooding back, and that means so does her monster traits.
Milady, your arm?
No.
Shall I fetch your makeup?
Wow, she really is a cosplayer. I love the dedication. Mina wants to kill Meteora because she's a monster! Since one drop rule, obviously. But Star is just as hungry for lore as the rest of us and therefore tries to defend her.
Whoa, Mina, wait just 1 second. I got a lot of questions here.
Doctor's orders! Which I 100% love. If this were like season 1, Star would probably just let Mina do it or be like, nah, me first. Homegirl has come a long way. Heinous escapes in the commotion and we get my favorite scene in the show just based upon the soundtrack choice. Her reclaiming her original name. It's awesome and it's creepy in a good way.
We should get going, Miss Heinous.
That's not my name. My name is Meteora.
You go, girl! Granted, Meteora is absent for a few episodes, but she is the focus of what follows. Star tells Moon what happened, but Moon doesn't believe her.
You barge in here with ridiculous claims about Heinous, make a mess in my office, and then call me a liar? I don't have time for this. What? No!
Wow, and I thought Marco's parents sucked. But to her credit, the issue does weigh on her, and she decides to go to Eclipsa and ask about her daughter. In the history books, Festivia is Eclipsa's daughter, and she denies this, both in name and appearance.
My daughter had cutest tail in all of Muni. She got it from her daddy. When a queen and a monster love each other very much.
I mean, how—
No, Eclipsa, please continue and all. I mean, Globgor is a size shifter and everything. No, never mind. Eclipsa and Moon team up to go to the archives and discover the truth. And even if it seems like Eclipsa is manipulating Moon, she really isn't, as it turns out. She wants the answers just as badly.
They took her out. They erased all record of my daughter completely. Who's Festivia?
Don't worry, we'll get to the bottom of this.
But Moon realizes there was a cover-up, and she's willing to team up with Eclipsa to figure out who did it. In the butterfly trap, we finally get the answer, which you all know by now. I'm not spoiling anything, it was the Magic High Commission. And Star takes this well, super well. Eclipsa gets freed, BTW.
Then that means we're no more royal than anybody else. You're still a princess, Star. No, Mom. We're nobody.
But enough about that. Time to get to school. Ooh, it's my favorite episode. One day out of the blue, Miss Heinous attacks St. Olga's. Since she isn't publicly Meteora yet, so they still call her Miss Heinous.
It's Miss Heinous. She's trying to take back the school.
But due to being part monster again, which nobody really comments on until the end, which I find weirdly sweet, she survives their onslaught of attacks, and she has a very special buddy.
Listen, I think they stopped.
Did you miss me?
Yes, I did, you cutie patootie. But unlike before, well, Miss Heinous has bigger fish to fry, so she doesn't really care about the girls unless they stand in her way. She wants to discover her origins, not the Wikipedia version she was given. And you all know by now, but she doesn't.
I think you looked better without it.
Well, I think she looks great with or without it.
Well, you aren't hiding. Good for you! Sorry, again, I had something similar like this happen to me growing up. I told you, Kitty Monk started as a mean nickname, or rather the monk part of it did. One that I kind of reclaimed. The official story Meteora was given was that she was found on the street by St. Olga, which I don't know if that's what St. Olga was told to say, or if she's just a really mean robot. I mean, it's probably the latter, but Meteora gets reminded that her childhood sucked as she was forced to conform. And I like how realistically it dawns on her that things were not the best. Like, she probably already knew deep down, but either didn't realize how bad it was or didn't want to admit it.
Time for a nice, relaxing brain massage.
No, not that memory. Rewind more. Go back.
Do you ever reminisce on your childhood and you're like, ugh, it sucked. Crap, we were poor. Or, oh crap, we were abused, weren't we? So you grew up thinking that stuff was normal, so it's not until you're older that you start to comment on it. Like, ugh, when I was 3 days old, I had to learn how to feed myself because my mother never would. She would always fall asleep. That is actually kind of sad. Wait, it is? My mom once told a nurse that I just came from a mental hospital because I was in cosplay and the nurse believed her. That's awful. Wait, my mom wasn't being funny? However, instead of realizing that she both perpetuated the abuse by forcing it onto the girls, and that she was also a victim, because, you know, from my Stella video, 2 things can be true, well, she decides...
Muni should have been mine.
I mean, she's got a point, and that's why she's my favorite antagonist. Weirdly, I love antagonists who have points just as much as antagonists who are evil for the heck of it. It makes the show weirdly complex. Like she says, yes, Muni should have been hers, but Eclipsa did give up her title so she could be with Globcore, and likely so she could have a better life. Since 300 years ago, monsters were hated just as much as they were today, and with the backdrop of the genocidal campaign Meteora's grandmother waged, imagine how much harder things would be, especially amongst monsters who would probably just see her as the symbol of Solaria's lineage. Meteora has an easier time today, but only because some progress has happened, and even then, it's immensely little. And besides, Eclipsa has forgiven Moon and Stars since they had nothing to do with what happened, their ancestors did. So even if she's correct that Muni should have been hers, well, honestly, she really has no claim left. At most, all she can do is make peace with Moon and Star and try to reconnect with her mother. And that's a horrible realization, that the people who were hurting you and hunting you, they were your family, and you can't do anything about it. Also, just one thing I kinda want to touch on.
All the other robot moms laughed behind my back. It was not easy.
When we first got the scene, many people were like, oh, there's other robots who raise kids? How terrible, other people besides Meteora are being abused. But while it does give me questions, I'm a bit optimistic about it. Like maybe the other robot moms were actually quite nice or motherly, and they just laughed because they knew how bad of a mom St. Olga was. Which is still bad, since that implies they all knew about Meteora's situation and they did not do anything but laugh about it. But yeah, I do find that kind of realistic. Or she's making stuff up to stay alive. Whatever. Like, she's even like, oh, I did my best, and not in a, look, I'm sorry, I did my best, you're 100% right, I didn't know any better, apologetic kind of way. She's one of those parents who were probably like, look, I put food on the table and a roof over your head, you should thank me. Wow, thank you for doing the bare minimum of the definition of parenthood, love. Wow, Meteora grew up being forced to conform, she should really become a cosplayer. At least with cosplay, you can be whoever you want, whenever you want, and people will accept you so long as you aren't being a jerk. And if you are, well, people will tell you just so you can improve. So of course, Meteora does what all abused children do who have superpowers. Lash out at everybody! Wow, you go girl, kind of. And she starts to embrace the monster side of her.
Yeah, thank you!
However, the more she does, the more she taps into her rage and anger and hurt, and the more she becomes a monster. Wow, this girl really needs a therapist. Now, a question I've wondered since the dawn of time was, what if the princesses knew that Meteora actually had a crybaby backstory? Would they still help her? And honestly, I don't really know. Part of me wants to say yes, but because of what she did to them, I could see them telling her to scram, or just being generally weary. I do like how Ponyhead was like, okay, yeah, wrong time, I'll come back later, I'm sorry. Even if it was mostly to save her own skin. However, this is a problem that will plague Meteora down the line. Because she keeps lashing out, she keeps losing allies, she keeps making it seem like she really is the monster they should be afraid of, when really that shouldn't be the case. When if she wants to take back the throne of Muni, well, she's gonna need allies, since she can't just assume everybody will support her claim or think it's rightful, especially with 300 years having gone by. Even those on the latter side of it will likely only help her so they can get something in return, or to stop Moon since maybe they were hurt by her policies of the reign. Obviously, the Ponyheads will no longer support her because look, she mutilated Ponyhead, which is good for fandom and not in universe. Okay, if you were on the fence, this is the main reason you should love Meteora. And she doesn't even keep it as like a trophy or to like stir her soup or anything. She just disposes of it like it's trash. Like, that is awesome. But Star won't support her because, come on, she hurt her friend when earlier Star did want to at least help her, if only because in a way she was family. Heck, while I doubt she did anything to the princesses, they probably won't support her after seeing what she did. That's going too far, man. And honestly, the more allies she loses, the more isolated she becomes. And when you're in a bad state mentally, isolation is the last thing you want, because she loses both of her allies. As in, yes, I get 100% why you feel that way, but I don't approve of these actions. Rastakor now thinks she's too crazy and leaves her, and I strangely cannot blame him. Like, it's kind of creepy, like pedophilic almost. She treated him like a son, and then once he regrows, she tries to force a, like, romantic relationship on him. Like, the creepy undertones are there. Like, why would he want this?
Oh, Rastakor. Looks like it's just you and me now.
Look, you're great. You know that. Why am I telling you, huh?
Like, yeah, it's highly selfish he's leaving considering all she did, but he kinda has a right not to want to be there anymore, seeing it all. He did his job as a bounty hunter, and Heinous can no longer pay him. What other use does he have to be there? And come on, dude, would you leave Meteora when she looks like this? This is probably my favorite Meteora design. Yes, Meteora will be cycling through a few designs, spoiler alert. I just like this one the most, like how youthful it makes her look and how she looks equal parts human, equal parts monster. I wasn't a big fan of her final design, being mostly monstery, even if I know why they went down that route. I just like it best, okay? I really want to cosplay Eclipsa one of these days, so maybe I'll cosplay that one too. Like, even when the episode first aired and I only had the inkling of wanting to cosplay, I totally would have done it. I just didn't know how you were supposed to. I even had a dress like hers, but Meteora doesn't take this rejection very well, and to be fair, the way Rastakor went about it didn't work. So she lashes out like usual and loses both of her allies. She takes Gemini's heart, which is the equivalent to killing him, just to blow up Rastakor, aka Gemini, the dude who stuck by her through thick and thin, and who tried to always offer her counsel even if he was ignored.
If you wanted my heart, all you had to do was ask.
Oh no, I'm gonna miss him!
Oh, Rastakor. Time to take back the throne of Muni.
Oh yeah, Rastakor doesn't appear after this BTW. I mean, like, he does appear in other cameos, but not with Meteora. Granted, I feel like he just crawled away, but this would be a further blow to Meteora's mental state. She could be like, why does everyone keep leaving me? Okay, new plan. You're all going to die. Today! But yes, Meteora decides on a quest to rebellion. And I guess in a way, she could have an easy time. While Star has made progress with monsters, well, she only made some progress, and not every monster is gonna support her.
Buffrog, you work at the castle now, right?
True, yes. But everyone in Castle still scared of me. Plus, Community's terrible.
Which honestly, even the show never really pointed out. It just stuck to the mean old humans. Like, yeah, Buffrog and his new allies did imply they believed in her and her cause. They just didn't feel safe in Muni until she was queen. Which honestly, monsters who don't support Star, who aren't Toffee, could have been a perfect episode. Maybe Meteora tries to drum up support with them, but they think she's too crazy. Or continuing on with the mixed race analogy, maybe they just view her as a human because, you know, she's part human. Even though the humans view her as a monster because she's part monster. Because clearly you can't be two things at once. Clearly a liger is just a lion in hiding. What are they thinking? How dare they decide who their parents are or how they're born? So nobody trusts her. Wait, is that why I like Meteora? Because I relate to her? Wow, I am really putting myself into this video, aren't I? Sadly, I feel like Meteora learned this revelation way too late in life. Because if she learned this in like season 1, I could see her story getting out and her getting this huge following. Or Toffee trying to exploit her as a puppet. But Toffee's dead and so is Seth. Now before we go any further, I want to play a clip from Transformers Prime. It's been a while since I did that. For reference, Starscream learns he essentially has the tools to revive Cybertron, which is the dead world, and if successful, he could go down as a god since he could just rewrite history to his liking. But as he realizes, since he alienated everybody, and since he has no powers of his own, thanks to his own mistakes, it's just a pipe dream.
But unlike Megatron, I lack the necessary infrastructure to enforce such a reign. No warship, no army, only my meager laboratory finds.
And I feel like this relates to Meteora. I'm sure many of you wanted Meteora to go the Daenerys Targaryen route, where she gradually builds up this army and then goes to Star's doorstep to challenge her. But the reason Dany got to where she was because she was a kind-hearted person who was good at making connections or getting people to like her. She was charismatic, and she had the right people on her side, capable people. And even if she didn't like hearing it, she still heard them out because she knew what they were talking about. And heck, her and Meteora have a lot in common, like their birthright's gone, they believe in the most black and white extreme terms, but Meteora is none of the things Dany is. So it's less like a full-scale rebellion in the making and more like an angry child lashing out at the world. For justified reasons, mind you, but lashing out nonetheless. Her plan isn't some grand-scale fight, it's more like Carrie, a revenge fantasy come to life. And since it wasn't well planned, it's basically just, yeah, I already repeated myself, okay. Since if you read the book, one detail I hate that most adaptations leave out is that Carrie was planning this for a while, as in, she had revenge fantasies. And when she realized she could get revenge on the people who wronged her, or who she thinked wronged her, she was obviously going to do it. Like, I hate how the movies have her, like, enter into this trance when she starts attacking her classmates. Like, she had her own autonomy, she made her own choice, she knew what she was doing. Like, at one point, she even uses electrical wires to kill people around town. But Meteora just started to go around Muni to try and take over, via destroying everything and everyone. Which realistically, even if she did succeed, what would happen after? This is super short term. With these kinds of plans, you need to happen after. Does she think people will just cower in fear after a certain point? Does she think she could fix it? Does she just like the power? These are the real questions you gotta answer, girl. Moon and Eclipsa decide to help, their first stop being the Pigeon Kingdom, where Meteora did things.
To our castle!
Does it not normally look like this?
No, keep looking.
Wait, but what was she doing there? This episode never really says. Like, did she go there for support and then they refused her because they like Star? Did she just think, okay, I'll take over this kingdom first because, you know, it's full of pigeons? Like, she still had her prejudices since you don't get rid of that overnight, or it's more like freedom for me, not for thee? Or maybe when she said take back the throne of Muni, she meant the whole kingdom, not just the Butterfly Kingdom. Meteor's destruction isn't simply limited to the Pigeon Kingdom, but to the humans, who she likely thinks are complicit.
She destroyed me teddy bear collection.
I love teddy bears. She gave me this neat hat. I like it.
Oh well, at least she did something nice. Per Eddie and the villagers, Meteora has become massive, and she drinks bog water. Oh my god, ew. Imagine the brain-eating amoebas. And I like how they never call her by her name. It's just the monster or the beast. Yeah, it makes for a cool reveal, but oh my god, why am I repeating myself? This video is long enough. It turns out that Meteora discovered she had magic somehow, and as a high red, her main magic is soul sucking. Oh, she's like Marceline. The more souls she takes, the bigger and more powerful she becomes. And notice how she's purple. Like, she reminds me of Gemini in a way.
Get out of my house! You know, you might want to take this a little more seriously.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I get jokey when I'm nervous.
Eclipsa is me in real life, I know it. But while Moon advocates for violence, Eclipsa first tries to reason with her. Which, because that's her mother, I can 100% get. She has good intentions, and she hasn't seen Meteora in 300 plus years after all. Maybe she just thinks if she, like, hugs her or something, it'll go away.
Maid Bobo, are you my mama?
You know, I think I prefer mother.
What?
I'm a mama, Eclipsa, but part of me thinks this comment unintentionally triggered Meteora, since we saw in the flashbacks that St. Olga made her call her mother, rather than mom, just cold mother. Clearly, she wants that loving, close, affectionate vibe with her mother, something she never got with a cold, unfeeling robot arm from St. Olga, especially considering this nickname that she insists Eclipsa must call her.
Baby Smooth.
Okay.
To this day, I wonder, what the hell does that mean? Like, was this something one of the crew members, like, their kids said or something? Of course, while Eclipsa is a pretty good TG to Star, well, being a mom is a lot different from being a TG. You actually have to discipline the kids, especially with all that extra baggage. She doesn't know Meteora all that well to begin with, and just goes off of stereotypes.
How about ponies? Bedtime's past 8. Ice cream for breakfast.
I hate ice cream.
Then no ice cream.
What about lemon ice? Wait, you don't like ice cream? That is so weird. I mean, I get it. I hate chocolate outside of the flavor, and I did not eat mac and cheese for like 20 years, and I didn't try hot chocolate till like literally Christmas of 2024, but wow, girl. Meteora asks her mother for the Frona Muni, and of course, when Eclipsa refuses, Meteora throws a tantrum.
You said I can have anything I want.
But the throne is not mine to give.
It's ours by right!
Talking to her doesn't work anymore since Meteora just thinks Eclipsa betrayed her. Or she's on their side. Betraytor! Granted, it is pretty merciful, she just lets her mom live when she puts her foot down, when everybody else she's like, so suck, leading to one of my favorite Eclipsa lines ever.
You saying no?
Yes, I am. Young lady, you turn right back around!
Moon decides that talk hasn't worked and a fight ensues, but Eclipsa does try to talk her down by telling her the words she probably never heard.
I love you! I know you haven't heard these words in a very long time, but I'm saying them again to you now. Please, Meteora, come back to me.
Oh! Too bad Moon has to ruin it by being Moon and forcing Eclipsa to dip down for likely the first time in her life. Meteora attacks Moon and steals part of her soul, and Moon's body goes into fight or flight mode and flies away, while Meteora gets away. Albeit, this is a weird comment. I'm reminded about how young Eclipsa probably is when we see her without the hat. Like, I don't even think they say how old canonically she is. For all we know, like, me and her could be the same age. I mean, I was the same age as Danny in the books when I first started reading Game of Thrones, so that was like really weird. Like, I was like in 8th grade, I'm like, wait, I have a kid with a warlord? Which leads into a finale of sorts. Divide and conquer. 2 episodes, not the saying. Star gets Eclipsa's testimony, and Eclipsa massively apologizes, but Star still insists she be chained up.
Star, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to my daughter?
Come on, Marco.
Which I 100% get. Star is angry that Eclipsa forced her to be queen at a super young age, if only temporarily. Plus, she'll at least always know where Eclipsa is in case anybody tries anything. Plus, she can't help her daughter do anything, who is going crazy. They'll have a hostage, perhaps they can talk down Meteora again. And even if Eclipsa insists she can't use magic without the wand, Star doesn't know that, and clearly she was using magic without the wand against her mother. Having destroyed the human countryside, Meteora is on her way to the castle. And Star has to formulate a plan like yesterday. Oh, and I like how they bring up they tried everything and it didn't work. Unlike Mina, it actually kind of is reasonable how they go about it. Oh, and speaking of Mina...
Perfect! That nutmix is a one-woman army!
Way ahead of you! We already sent Mina out to do just that.
Ah, great.
And she lost.
Haha, take that. Doctor's orders! Marco puts together a ragtag group of his friends, and Hekapu, the traitor, to defeat Meteora. And she just non-sells all of their attacks.
Oh, hello, Turdina. I've been looking for you.
Just to get this out of the way, a bit of a nitpick, I don't really like the voice they used for Meteora in the last 2 episodes. Like the deep pitch, it just feels way too cartoony for what they were going for. And before you say anything, yes, that is Jessica Walter still voicing Meteora. Disney's YouTube channel released an animatic of the castle fight scene, and that's indeed Jessica Walter, just with her voice pitched down. I think they learned their lesson, since when we eventually see Globgor in Coronation and he's like at his biggest size, he still kind of sounds normal.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Look, I have to go far away from here. If the humans find out I'm free, they're just gonna take it out on my family.
Meteora is about to suck out Marco's soul when Tom takes the bullet.
You're back?
I got thousands of spirits in here.
Chekhov's gun from Demoncism. Oh my goodness, he deserves just 1 toy from the toy chest. Wait, no, he deserves the whole toy chest. Okay, you know what? He deserves 1 toy per soul sucked. Or maybe not, considering how Meteora just treats Tom like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
She's getting bigger.
I may not have thought this through.
What? You don't say. And Marco gets, okay, I don't want to say it because he's a minor. River tries something, but she stops him too, and because Star doesn't know how the magic sanctuary works, or because she technically isn't queen, she can't just save Marco via magic. Again, pretty reasonable. She's a distressed teenager being forced to do the job of an adult, and Moon is a workaholic control freak, so I could see Moon never really teaching Star any of this.
Star, I'm sorry.
It would have worked if my mom was here.
Star goes back to the castle and discovers that Meteora destroys everything except for the portrait of Eclipsa and Glabgor. Oh, that's actually kind of sweet. In the time since Star was gone, so like less than an hour, Eclipsa got free. Again, Chekhov's gun, go watch season 3 outside of Lava Lake Beach. But as far as Meteora knows, she has succeeded. She took the throne of Muni and she is now queen. But at what cost?
That was so much easier than sucking all those cells. Just one punch. Bam!
And honestly, is she really a queen? Her subjects are like balloons. There's nobody to listen to her, and her parents aren't there. All of her friends, they're gone too, all because of her. To me, the biggest way you achieve your dreams isn't just by, achieving them. It's also by having people to share it with. If not, that's a very empty existence. Are you speaking from experience, Kitty? Back to the video. So imagine how she'd be after the dust settled, like after she calmed down and realized everything was gone. Star fights Meteora and still fails, but there's still somebody who isn't peak health and kind of awesome sauce. Eclipsa! Eclipsa? Yes, Star, I was getting to that. It was Eclipsa! Eclipsa's character development is proven. She defends her kingdom, even if it means potentially killing her daughter, just because Meteora is not going to stop. And I like how she does try one last time to talk her down, and when that doesn't work, she has to use a firm hand.
You can't do this, Meteora!
This should all be ours!
So what? You're just going to destroy it all?
Something like that.
Stop!
Like, she realized that yes, talking is important, but that's not getting us anywhere. And then we get Black Velvet Inferno.
Black Velvet Inferno.
So a mounting question that many people wonder is, despite the implication that Black Velvet Inferno was going to kill her, well, why did it turn her into a baby? The biggest theory was that it was a consequence of Meteora sucking the life force out of all of those princesses, while others thought that Star used up all her magic, because she's like, here, you want my magic taken? Which I don't think that was her literally giving her her magic. That was just her concentrating all of her energy into one blast. She was even about to use another spell after, she just had no energy left. Well, apparently, according to the Book of Spells, to my knowledge, since I don't have the book currently on me, it got thrown out when we were moving, it either kills you or turns you into a baby. The effects are totally random, but at least we got an answer. Still, this proves to Star that Eclipsa deserves to be queen, considering how she lost everything and proved her dedication to Muni, for once being selfless, which I don't think she did for the kingdom, but okay. She did it for Star.
Things haven't been right since my family took the kingdom. The best thing I can do as queen is return what my family stole from you.
So she gives up her role as queen and the wand, and Meteora, well, time for the baby era.
Hello there, little one.
What?
Thank you.
Meteora gets a second chance in the form of turning back into a baby with none of her memories intact. She can start over fresh, and one day, Muni will finally be hers. Eclipsa leaves to parts unknown with her daughter, which turns out to be the Monster Temple, in order to get to work freeing Glabgor and being a family once again.
Hello, my love. We're home.
With the Butterfly Castle basically destroyed, she sets up shop there, and Meteora gets the childhood she never had. Being able to show her differences, a loving mother and a loving home, all that jazz. But while she doesn't have her memories, she does have the subconscious idea of such, which makes me hope that one day she does not regain them.
I would have asked Marco, but I get the sense she doesn't like him very much.
Marco.
But while Meteora isn't quite active at this point, well, she still kind of is. See, with most shows, the problem is when they add a baby, nothing really happens. Babies don't do anything, but the plot still revolves around them and all their boring activities. Unless they're Pooh or Perry from Fairly Odd Parents, I don't want a dead name. But Meteora accomplishes a lot, I feel. At times, yeah, she feels like a plot device, but I like how she still has a character. Meteora's lesson is probably the biggest example of this. As future queen, this means Glossaric has to tutor her. And while it's for a reason, I like how he takes the approach of being like her imaginary friend, since Meteora does care about him and eagerly wants to learn, unlike all the other princesses.
My arm. Just a little boo-boo. Oh, no, don't cry. Your buddy Glossaric's okay. Look. I've got another eye.
It's cool how this goes back to Eclipsa being the only butterfly to never question him, which was probably because Eclipsa was crystallized before she could give the book to Meteora, so she probably couldn't ask, like, why are you doing this for me and not for Meteora, or vice versa. But this lady also dabbled with dark magic, so really, who is she to judge anybody? But Glossaryck also uses the lesson as a way to tie up loose ends, like going back to the beginning of human history and turning Meteora's wand into the butterfly wand. Okay, so that really was her birthright. Anybody want to bet she was called Queen Mo, like she took the Mo thing literally?
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, you, Mo. Here you go. Congratulations! You can do magic with that thing.
Okay.
But they eventually get to Toffee's time, in his bad boy phase. He's a bad boy, because he can't find a good barber and refuses to do it himself.
I've been to prison in 3 different countries. I once had to chew my way out of the trunk of a car. You think you've got problems? I've got a mullet, Stanford!
Yes, Toffee, I know, and my name's Kitty, not Stanford. Actually, it's Abby, but you know what I mean. I play the soundbite whenever you show up with that stupid-looking hair. Toffee tries to tear Glossaryck limb from limb, but Meteor's exercises pays off, and she attacks him.
Okay, that's enough, Meteora. Meteora!
Wow, Marco really dodged a bullet. And remember, she's a baby at this point. But as it turns out, this was all just a lesson to make sure magic was in good hands. As in Coronation, she dips down to get out of her cage to go see her father. But she's crawling through flames, which is dangerous, baby, no! However, the humans, for as much as they hate monsters, well, you obviously don't want to see a baby get hurt.
There's a baby in the fire!
Baby?
Meteora!
Glogor is forced to rescue her, and this display of paternal affection convinces them that he is a dad, and he's human in a way. So T.Y. Glogor, T.Y. Meteora.
Yeah, that's right. It's Baba.
Kitty, this video was too long, I can hear your throat. Like, this script is already, like, 100 pages. None of your script ever reached this long. Fine, Catherine, 1 or 2 more things and then you can go. We have to cover Meteora and Mariposa, okay? Oh yeah, in the time since Marco was gone, his parents got upset and decided to replace him with a new baby, Marco Jr.
You're naming him Marco Jr.
After you.
That's not how it works. You don't name your son after your son.
But he's got a little mole, just like you. Marco Sr.
Really? You can't just name him something unique like Marco? I know you always wanted a boy named Marco. Kitty, they already have a son named Marco. Please, Catherine, they can take it back. Baby number 2 is now Marco. You can't just take away a teenager's name. Fine then, they should call him GM. General Motors. No, I'm kidding. You thought I was gonna say good Marco. No, I kid. But because the baby was assigned female at birth, and since they did make up with Marco, they decide on Mariposa, which is also the Spanish word for butterfly, and a really good Barbie movie. And I think it's a nice way to honor Star and show they support Marco and her in their endeavors. Marco and Star are babysitting, and the babies are getting along. But Hekapoo comes by to give some more foreshadowing and accidentally leaves the portal open to her dimension. Meteora and Mariposa wander in and end up in the 8 minutes dimension, where time goes so quickly there that 8 minutes in our world is like 30 years in Hekapoo's world. In the time since they've been gone, Mariposa and Meteora become sisters, even if they weren't blood related. That is so cute. And Meteora was willing to do anything to ensure that Mariposa had powers, even if that meant trusting the wrong people to do it.
I call for a sister meeting. Ugh, fine.
Greetings. I'm Bork, and this is Grob.
It's kind of sweet and they kind of remind me of Arcane, a show I really need to review. I like they at least gave Mariposa 1 episode outside of Marco Jr. However, they don't want to go home for reasons. Meteora, because she hates Marco.
Can I help you?
I don't know why, but something about you makes me angry.
I wonder why. And Mariposa because she's worried that they'll be separated permanently. But Star and Marco swear they'll make sure they're still friends, and this encourages them to go home. But finally, we have one final Meteora moment. She dips down again in the magic dimension, and oh, she's so cute, in order to destroy magic.
Oh, darling, you look beautiful.
I do think this is kind of since it wasn't foreshadowed all that well, but I guess you could just write it off as the magic dimension doing its things, or Glossaric started teaching her early, but then again, the finale has enough problems. And when the ghosts of the Butterfly Queens disappear, well, she meets her grandmother for the first and only time. Oh no, like I told you, this scene always makes me tear up.
Well, for what it's worth, I think you made the right choice.
But okay, that was Meteora, and oh my god, this script was 100 pages, my poor throat. Meteora is a great character, and she's my favorite antagonist from Star Versus. I do think she has a few problems in the heinous era, and I do dislike how she sounds when she becomes, like, giant, but overall, they're nitpicks. But okay. I did the script. I earned my wontons for dinner. Your what? My wontons? You know we always order from China Panda in Jersey City. Why do you call them that, Kitty? Why do you use all of these weird words? What weird words? Like wontonies, snacky snack, piggish, because I say them in real life and they help my adorable factor. More like cringe factor. Have you ever been on Instagram? You're one to talk. Anyhow, bye.